Hi, John. Sean Souls.
Good morning, Mr. Souls. How are you?
Fantastic. I have a group of about 30 students here who have some questions for you. Are you ready?
Excellent. I am ready.
All right. I'm going to let them take over, okay?
That's fine.
All right.
How's everybody doing today?
How are you? Good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
All right. We have a list of questions we would like to ask you, but before we ask you, we would like to thank you for taking time out of your day to for us.
Absolutely, and I'm happy to do it.
All right. So the first person we have asking questions today is going to be Sierra.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Sierra, and I just have a few questions for you.
Okay.
Could you please explain what autogas is and its importance on the environment?
Absolutely. Autogas is another word for propane. And propane, you guys might, if you lived in a country and you didn't have natural gas to heat your home, you'd use propane, liquid petroleum gas, to heat your home. A lot of folks in the cities, they know propane as like a barbecue grill cylinder. So if your parents, you have a grill with one of those little 20-pound tanks on it, that's propane. And, you can actually, and not a lot of people knew this, you guys are smart to do your research and know that you can also run vehicles on autogas or propane. So if I use the term autogas or propane, they're the exact same thing. So that the thing that can start your fire in your barbecue grill can also run a vehicle. And some of the benefits. I should probably give you a history of propane a little bit. Back in the early 1900s, there was a chemist and an explosive expert who was going to do some tests on gasoline. He put some in a bottle and put a cork on it. He's going to take it back to his lab, and the cork kept popping off. And he wasn't sure what was going on. He was a chemist, so he wanted to check it out. And he discovered that there's a vapor in the gas that was causing the cork to pop off. And he eventually, a few years later, patented liquid petroleum gas. And it wasn't long after that he figured out a way to use it in a gasoline engine. So back, like in 1913, 1915, they were actually using propane or autogas to run vehicles. So it's been around like 100 years, and not a lot of people really know about it. In the 1950s, it kind of caught some momentum. A lot of folks were converting vehicles, mainly fleets and governments were converting vehicles. In the 70s and 80s, it really gained a lot of momentum. Like, I'm not sure if you guys know, like Schwann's, the company that delivers casseroles and ice cream to homes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Schwann's Home Delivery. Almost all of their fleet was converted in the 70s over to propane. So all of the Schwann's trucks you might see run on propane, and they're actually our biggest customer. They buy like 10 million gallons a year. But the problem back in the early days was it ran on the vapor, not actually the liquid gas itself. It ran on the vapor, so there was a lot of issues because it wasn't the liquid form. And here recently, I think in Italy, they came up with a way so the liquid injection, instead of using a vapor, it's really established. There's issues in the 70s and 80s products, but there were some issues. They kind of slipped a little bit. It kind of went away. But now the liquid injection, it came back in a big way. And so the other part of your question was how does it help the environment? It is much, much cleaner burning than gasoline or diesel. If you see a diesel truck, if you're behind a diesel truck or a diesel school bus, when they take off, there's a big black cloud of smoke coming out of their exhaust pipe. You're kind of going, oh my God, you need to Midas-ize that thing. With propane, it's much, much cleaner burning. It's safer for the environment. My parents' generation, my grandparents' generation, even partly my generation, has not done a great job of taking care of the environment and the air for you guys growing up. And so we can't really do anything about what we did in the past, but going forward, we can do everything we can to make a cleaner environment, cut down on greenhouse emissions, which is a big thing these days. And Autogas could be up to 25% less greenhouse emissions, which is really it's a big deal to my kids. I have one daughter that's a senior in high school, and I have a sophomore in college. My son's 24, so it still matters to me because of my kids' age, my grandkids, my great-grandkids, that, we haven't done a great job taking care of, we don't have one earth and one environment and one atmosphere. We haven't done a great job taking care of it. So, Autogas can really contribute with turning that around to where, when cars were invented, everybody had to have one. You drove everywhere, and you had gasoline, and you had diesel, and all that pollutants going in the air, and we didn't know any better back then, but now we know that there's alternatives like Autogas, which, of course, I think is the number one alternative fuel available. It could definitely help turn the environment, the pollutants around, and make it a little bit better world for, hopefully for you guys and definitely your kids and grandkids. So it's a huge benefit of Autogas is the, up to 25% less greenhouse emissions from a vehicle that runs on Autogas.
Thank you.
It's kind of a long-winded answer to your question.
No, it's
Thank
fine.
you. Has your company always used propane to run your vehicles?
Yes, we have probably 30 to 40% of our vehicles run on propane. And you would think, gosh, they should all run on propane, and you're right, but not every vehicle can be converted to run on Autogas. There's only certain cars, certain trucks, and certainly the bigger trucks, like semi-trucks, can't be converted. Not everything can be run on propane or Autogas. We like to have 100% of our fleet run on Autogas. Right now, it's 30 to 40%, and half of those vehicles are like just pickup trucks. They're like service trucks. The guys will go out and fix a tank. We'll go out and do some work on a system. Another half are like the big bobtail trucks. I'm not sure if you guys have seen those in your area, but it's a pretty big truck with a big 2,000 or 3,000 gallon barrel in the back that holds the propane that they go around and put in people's tanks. So right now, Roush, I'm not sure you guys are near Detroit, I believe, so you guys probably heard of like Roush Racing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Part of the Ford group. Everybody likes fast cars, Mustangs, and all. Well, Roush also has a division they started that called Roush Clean Tech, and we actually partnered with them, and they are huge in converting vehicles over to Autogas. So when they're coming out of the assembly line in Detroit, they get towards the end and say, okay, is this going to be a gasoline-powered car or truck that needs to go that way? Is this going to be a propane or Autogas-powered vehicle that needs to go the other way? And then they install the fuel system that will run on Autogas. And so you can get vehicles right off of the assembly line that run on propane, with F-150s and F-250s and 350s. Those are just basically sizes of trucks. Like a 150, my brother has a 150. And then 250s a little bigger, 350, 450, they're up to 550s now where you can have a pickup truck, a big pickup truck that runs on propane. They've also, Freightliners, another name of a company that makes big trucks. They're now making a truck big enough that we can get one of those bobtails with the big 2,000 or 3,000 gallon tank, which are super duper heavy, that they can, again, manufacture bobtails that run on propane, which is great for us because propane is much, much, much cheaper than gasoline or diesel, especially for a company like Farrell Gas that, we have a wholesale division who buys, hundreds and hundreds of millions of gallons at a time and get really, really cheap. So instead of spending $3 a gallon or $3.50 on diesel, or $3 on unleaded, we can get it for like $1 a gallon, less than $1 a gallon. So
That's nice. That's really
not only
nice.
can it help the environment, we could save us a ton of money by having our fleet run on propane. We wouldn't even have to go to the gas station to fill up. Our different plants for facilities throughout the country have big tanks. We would just fill it up at our own place with
That's
our
nice.
$1 a gallon gas. So,
That's really nice.
so we our goal is to have 100% of our fleet run on propane, and hopefully someday we can. But not all vehicles can be converted, and not all vehicles can run on propane. So we're working on it, though.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Another question to that is, how do propane cars last longer than regular, like unleaded and regular fuels?
That's a really good question. Since we said propane already, it burns cleaner. It doesn't have all that gunk in it. When it burns up, to propel your vehicle, it goes up in the air. It's just a much cleaner gasoline. It doesn't have all the particles in it that gas and diesel might have. So, just imagine if you had a bunch of pipes, any kind of pipe, like a maze or something. You'd try to pour like muddy water down it. After a while, those pipes would be really, really dirty. Or say you got this straight water, clean water, and you poured it down these pipes. After an hour or two or a day, the muddy pipes would be all clogged up and it'd be full of junk and gunk. But the one you just poured water down would be nice and clean. So it's almost the same thing with, that's how clean propane is. That you don't get all that in your engine to get it all clogged up and gunked up. Where you need to change your oil so often. A regular vehicle, you guys change your oil every 3,000 miles is what you're supposed to do. But with propane, you can go every 5,000 or 6,000 miles before changing your oil, because it just burns so much cleaner. Just something about propane. I actually was the general manager over the whole Kansas City area at one time, and I'll tell you a little story about how clean propane is. We went out to a customer's house and we're going to bury the underground tank. You can have tanks above ground, have tanks underground. Well, we went out to bury an underground tank for this customer that just bought this house. And as we were digging a hole, we found an underground tank that was already there that they'd forgotten all about. It had been there like 25 years. And so we had to pull it up and out of the ground, so just went and put the new one in. And our safety department said, "Hey, I want that tank." And I said, "Well, what are you going to do with that tank?" They said, "Well, we want to do some tests on it." And so they sucked all the gas out, and they cut that tank in half. And the tank on the inside looked just like it was the day it was manufactured. You think it'd be like rust, it'd be like nasty inside, but that tank, the inside, looked exactly like it did when it was manufactured back, in the 70s. So it just the properties of propane, it's just much cleaner than diesel or gasoline. So it just makes sense that if you run gas through your engine or you run propane through your engine, the cleaner fuel, this won't get all that gunk in your engine and get it clogged up your carburetor and all your fuel lines and your filters. So that's one selling point we tell fleets is that, not only can you save money, not only is it better for the environment, but your maintenance costs are less because, you won't have to deal with, your filters and your oil changes as much using propane versus, gasoline or diesel. So that was a great question.
Now, off of that, now my car, I usually get around 300 miles a tank. How much would you, on average, of like a sedan, would you get on a propane vehicle?
Okay, so you got 300 miles on a tank full?
Yes, usually.
Okay. Well, it really depends on what size the tank. Let's use your car, for example. Normally, you will get 10% less miles per gallon if you use propane. So if you normally got 10 miles per gallon, you'd only get 9 miles per gallon using propane. So if you got 300 miles, that means you get 270 miles on a tank full of propane. You get 10% less.
Okay.
But the good thing is, you're like, wow, that kind of stinks that
Yeah.
I won't go as far. But the price, you haven't talked about the price a little bit about propane,
Yeah.
but, you will save, 30 to 40% on the cost of autogas as your fuel. So, I don't know if you guys are interested in business, but I'll do that all day long. If I have to pay 10% to get 30 to 40% back, I'll do it all day long,
yeah,
every
for
day,
sure.
all year long. You can't lose with that deal. So you can go 10% less miles, but if it's going to cost you $2 instead of $3,
Yeah.
pretty good deal, right?
Yeah. Now, with you were talking about the military and how they use their fleet. Has the government helped? I mean, since there's been so much proof that propane is more efficient, have they helped you at all? With
Yes, absolutely. It is actually, there are lots of incentives out there for fleets to convert their vehicles over to alternative fuels. And it's not just propane or autogas. It could be CNG, which is compressed natural gas. It could be electric or biodiesel as well. But in 1990, there was the Clean Air Act that the president put into effect where we're going to try and clean up the air. That's just like it sounds. So they put out incentives to get people to do something besides gasoline and diesel. And for example, recently the incentives expired December 31st of 2013. And since this is an election year, they're taking their sweet time to renew the incentives for alternative fuel. But this happened a few years ago during the midterm election years, and they eventually approved it and renewed it and made it retroactive back to when it expired. So there hasn't been any incentive since January 1st of this year, but we're sure once the election's over this year, that the midterm elections, that they will renew the incentives. And what it includes, if somebody used gasoline or used autogas instead of gasoline or diesel, they'd get a 50-cent tax credit. So, we're talking about here, like charging you $2 a gallon if you bought propane for your car. Well, you pay $2, but then say if you worked,
yes.
and at the end of the year you had a tax liability, you could write off 50 cents for every gallon of autogas that you used.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we have some big companies. We have a lot of bus companies. Frito-Lay, Dish Network, First Group, the huge bus company. They go through thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of gallons a year, and they can save 50 cents per gallon. So we can tell those customers, hey, look, it's going to cost you. Of course, those guys pay a little bit less than you would, Sierra. They may pay $1.50 a gallon, and then when they get their tax credit, they're paying $1 a gallon versus $3 a gallon for
Regular.
unleaded, or
Yeah.
$3.25 for diesel. There's also other incentives that, hey, if you guys want to put a dispenser here at your location, like a gas pump you'd see at
Wait.
7-Eleven or any gas station, the government will help them out with 30% of the expense. So if it costs them, say they want to put in 3 of those at my Frito-Lay plant or my Dish Network plant, it's going to cost $100,000. The government say, hey, look, we'll help you out. Like, you only pay $70,000 instead of $100,000, and those companies are going, wow, so I can save $30,000, put in a dispenser at my location, and plus I could get it really cheap, the gas that is, and then I get 50 cents off on top of that. So these big companies are looking at that going, this is kind of a no-brainer. And plus, hey, we all have kids too. There's going to be less pollutants and be a cleaner air environment for our kids. So these big companies are looking at that, and the government's supporting it by giving these incentives to these companies, because otherwise they might think, well, I can't, it's not taking me that much money, it's not worth the trouble, I can't get it everywhere, I can't afford to put my own dispensers at my location. So, so actually the government really is supporting all alternative fuels, and we hope they continue. Like I said, we can't promise our customers now that, hey, you will get that 50-cent tax credit back, or you will get the credit for the infrastructure to build those dispensers. But if I'm not a betting god. If I was, I would bet, I'm 99.9% sure that those incentives will come back. It's all good politicians in Washington, D.C. We've seen it 2 or 3 times where it expires. They don't immediately say, hey, gosh, that incentive for alternative fuel expired. Let's get right on that.
Yeah.
They play that political game. So we're pretty sure that the midterm elections are winding up here.
Yeah.
We think they'll renew it retroactive back to January. So it's like it never expired, and then they'll make it good for 2 years, and that'll end up being the presidential election year, and we'll see the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
But, they are definitely supporting alternative fuel. So another good question.
And then my last question for you until I hand it over is, in your packets that you have on your website or what Mr. Souls gave us, we saw that you do fracking. Now, how much less are you using of crude oil and natural resources in your propane than it is in regular gases?
That's a good question. I actually looked that up, tried to find that answer last night. I cannot tell you how much. Are you talking about our operation down in Texas that we just purchased?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I am not very familiar with that operation. It's fairly new to us. But my understanding is that when they squirt water down in the earth to try and loosen up all these gases, that water has to come out, and it's dirty, and they have to get rid of it. They can't just put it back in the ground, and so it has to be processed. And so our job is to go pick up that dirty water and take it somewhere that can be processed. It's kind of, feral gas has always been, just like Hank Hill on the TV shows, like, propane and propane accessories. We've always just been in the propane business. We're looking at ways to diversify. Propane's very weather-related. It's really, probably 50%, 60% of our business is heating homes and businesses. So if it's a cold winter, it's a really good winter for us. If it's a warm winter, it's a bad year for us. So, Autogas, that's one benefit is that it's not weather-related. These cars are going to run in January, whether it's 10 degrees or it's 50 degrees. And it's the same thing. We're trying to diversify with that operation down in Texas where we're not weather-dependent. So it's fairly new. I'm not really that familiar with it, but I know we're definitely excited about the operation. And as far as how much crude, the idea is they're trying to get crude out of the ground. And, a big benefit of using Autogas is that we're not dependent upon crude oil from the Middle East, where a lot of crude oil comes from. You import a lot. Propane, like 90% of the propane that's used in this country is from the United States, and we like that a lot. I'm a pretty patriotic guy, so and most of it's out of Texas, and that's where our operation is down there. That we're actually exporting a lot of propane these days overseas, which a lot of people think that's great. A lot of people don't like it. Last year we kind of were probably exporting more than we should have, and there was a really, really cold winter, some issues with the pipeline, so shortage last winter, and people saying, why are we exporting all this gas when we can use it over here? So they're making some changes on that. But as far as the crude oil, using Autogas or propane will definitely displace using crude oil. A lot of it we have to import from the Middle East. So as far as your questions, as far as what we're saving down and with our operation with Sable, I really can't answer that. I'm so focused on Autogas 24/7, 5 that. But I know everybody's very excited about that operation, and we're looking at further diversification where we're not so reliant on, hey, it's going to be cold this winter and we're going to have a good year, or is it going to be a warm winter and have a bad year? So really, you guys all probably think it really stinks when it's cold. Man, this is no fun. In the propane business, like, hey, it's really cold. That's great for business. We're going to have a good year. If it's warm, well, it's not so bad either. it's not cold, it's warm. So
Yeah.
we kind of can't lose. So
Yeah, true.
I hope that answers your question on the crude oil. I'm not sure if I did a very good job, but
No, I understand where you're coming from. That operation sounds like it's gonna go and it's gonna go well.
I think so.
All right, we have about 5 minutes left for the conference call, so we're gonna ask maybe 2 more questions.
Okay, great.
Hi, my name's Kelsey, and are there any groups or like companies that are opposed of using propane?
The only ones that are really opposed to it are our competition. Compressed natural gas is probably the other big player in alternative fuels. I'm not going to say like we don't like them and they don't like us, but we think we're a better alternative fuel than compressed natural gas or CNG.
That makes a lot of sense. Like, there's so many situations like that.
Yeah, so competitors don't like the idea of like, autogas. So they'll tell you a million reasons why it's not very good. And we'll tell you a million reasons why we don't think compressed natural gas is very good. Of course, the gasoline companies and diesel companies don't think it's such a great idea either. So, but there's really not a whole lot not to like. So there's not people like protesting, oh, don't use propane, that's terrible stuff.
Yeah.
No, it's just not true. It's good stuff. So.
All right, our last question, what else should we know about Favrow Autogas and its commitment to a green environment?
Well, I'll tell you, we're very committed to Autogas, especially in the United States here. I was actually, like I said, I was the general manager of the Kansas City area for 5 years, and I came to the corporate office to help kind of launch this Autogas thing. The higher-ups, the executives are kind of going, like, they're going to half in, half out. They're going, well, we'll give this Autogas thing kind of a try. We'll see if it makes us any money, if there's any future for it. And so that made me feel real good about my job security. They're going, are you guys serious or not? We'll give it a try, John. Like, we'll put this position up. You come help us launch this Autogas division. And then after the first year, we made a little bit of money. And then the second year, we quadrupled that money. And then the third year, we more than quadrupled that money. They're going, hey, this Autogas thing is a pretty good idea. I mean, we are a corporation. We're traded on Wall Street. So, we need to make money because we have to pay dividends to our shareholders. So, we're all in now. We're very serious about it. And it's not going to go away. Especially with the liquid injection systems I talked about earlier. We got it down, Pat. We got it down to where it's pretty much foolproof. So, and we're working with, we'd love to work with individuals, but if you guys said, hey, John, can I convert my 1995 Jeep over to propane, to be like, well, if it could be converted, it cost you $5,000 or $6,000, and you can save $1 a gallon. Well, that may not be worth your while to convert it, but we're working with fleets all over the country, and especially a lot of school bus companies. I'm sure some of you guys drive or ride the school bus to school every day. We have school bus companies all across the country in California and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Awesome. They're converting all of their buses over to propane. We're saving, lots of money for them. The big thing is they're hauling small kids on these buses that put a lot of pollution out there right underneath all of their kids. So, we're very devoted to converting as many fleets as we can over to Autogas, so that hey, other companies are about saving money. We're making a cleaner environment for future generations, and so we're 1,000% dedicated to helping grow Autogas. In the United States, from, like I said, we have customers from Seattle, Washington, all the way down to Florida, up in Pennsylvania, all the way to California, and other companies are doing the same thing. So if you Google alternative fuels, school buses, fleets, it's gaining momentum, and eventually, hopefully, even like personal vehicles you guys can buy, or maybe your parents buy a new car that comes running on Autogas, on propane. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. We just want to say thank you for taking your time out of your day today and talking to us over the phone. we really appreciate it, and our group will definitely benefit from this call. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. I hope I helped you guys out. And
Yes.
Mr. Souls knows how to get a hold of me. If you guys have some questions come up later, Mr. Souls, feel free to give me send me an email, give me a call.
Okay.
Will do.
I'd love to help you guys any way I can. So thanks,
All right.
thanks
Thank
a lot.
you.
Great conversation.
Thank
Thank you so
so
much.
much.
Hey, you're welcome. You guys have a great day, all right?
You too.
You too. See ya.
I will. Bye-bye.
Bye.